in the grass and sand and ground cover, and the leaves, seeds, and blossoms that fall from the trees all year long.
In the tall pines reaching for the heavens, and the live oaks that.
In the soft breeze that brings the scent of salt water and jasmine to tickle our noses and whips dust and hawks above.
In the egrets in their rookery, the snakes lurking beneath piles of brush, the jewel-toned lizards of varied shapes and sizes, and the maddening horde of stinging, biting, annoying insects.
In the rivers winding through the land, and the ocean lapping and crashing along the shore, tide rising and falling to mark the passage of time.
What of these would we not name as holy? This planet, our home,
Earth,
Water,
Fire,
And air.
holds us as a loving parent cradles a newborn.
sustains us in ways we cannot do for ourselves.
Inspires us to pay attention.
to witness the great and terrible beauty.
and to know ourselves, to be connected to it all.
Come, let us worship together. I now invite you to rise in body or in spirit and join me in singing our opening hymn, For the Earth Forever Turning. It's number 163 in the gray hymnal, which are under the seats, or maybe on the seats if you're in the back, and the words will also be on the screens.
During this time when our country has initiated a war on another country, we light a candle for peace, for all those experiencing the horrors of war. We recognize that violence serves only to create more violence. War and generational hatred. Justice is at the core of our faith. Love is the center of our values. May the light of this candle remind us of our call to bring justice and love to our community and to the world. And we light this candle in recognition of the Tamian and Muwekma Ohlone indigenous peoples, who were the first humans to inhabit and steward this land thousands of years before settler colonizers arrived. We honor the resilience of these indigenous peoples in the face of devastating harm, and we financially support the Muwekma Preservation Foundation and the Amamutsan Land Trust. We continue to support the integrity of the entire Eurostak tribal cultural landscape alongside the Amamutsan tribal band. After we light this chalice, I invite you who are participating by Zoom to light your chalices or the candle in your heart and to write into the chat where we are lighting today. We light this chalice for the warmth of love, the light of truth, and the energy of service.
And I invite you to rise once again in body or in spirit as we say our affirmation, which we say both in English and in Spanish, a reminder of the many languages spoken within this community and beyond its walls, many languages of the heart. We'll wait for it to come up on the screen. There we go. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek truth in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls may grow into harmony with the divine. This do we covenant with one another. El amor es la doctrina de esta iglesia. La búsqueda de la verdad es su sacramento y el servicio es su oración. Habitar juntos en paz, buscar la verdad con libertad y servir con unidad juntos, con el fin de que todas las almas pueden crecer en armonía con lo divino. Eso es lo que pactamos unos con otros.
Good morning. Good morning and welcome to the First Unitarian Church of San Jose. My name is Anna Wagner. My pronouns are she and her. I am a 40-ish white woman with glasses, brown hair, dusted with gray. It is a joy to be with you. Whoever you are, wherever you're coming from, whatever your identity, your story, your beliefs, you are welcome here. This is a place to bring your whole self. We are grounded in a simple, powerful truth. Love is at the center of our faith. And from that love flows our commitment to one another. We believe we are all sacred, that we are deeply interconnected, and that every person deserves dignity, belonging, and the chance to flourish. And we are called, imperfectly but faithfully, to build a more just and compassionate world together. Today, in this Earth Day service, we'll reflect on our relationship with the earth, what it asks of us, and what it makes possible. Now, let us take a moment through the magic of technology to greet our friends joining us on Zoom. The camera is directly across from me. It should pan. Oh, there it goes.
wave at the camera to say hi to all of our friends joining us from Zoom. And they will be waving back at us, and maybe we will see them. If the magic of technology holds, there we are. Look at those beautiful faces. There they are. Hi, friends. After the service, you're warmly invited to join us in Hattie Porter Hall, just through these doors, for coffee and gentle conversation. If this is your first or second time visiting us, be sure to stop by the welcome table that's just through these doors. Welcome. It is good to be together.
I would now like to invite those who are young or young at heart to join me down here at the Labyrinth. I'm noticing that I've seen at least a few youth that were here earlier today yet are not in the sanctuary. I'm wondering where they are. One of them may be my own child. But I would invite those who are, like I said, young and young at heart to join us here in the sanctuary. We're here in the Labyrinth for our story. Our story this morning is called To Change a Planet by Christina Soontornvat, illustrated by Rahel, Jomepour, Belli. Our planet, big, tough, dependable. Our planet has spun through the eons of time. Mere moments ago, we arrived. One person, small, quiet, insignificant. But when one person and one person and one person become many, they can change a planet. I can see down there trees being cut down and long lines of traffic and factories polluting and animals crammed into feedlots. Ways we've impacted. One molecule of carbon dioxide, small, quiet, insignificant. But when many cars, many factories, and many cities let loose millions and billions and trillions, they wrap and stifle like a too warm blanket. One notch high on the thermometer, small, quiet, insignificant. But one notch higher can change our seas, our seasons, life, us. One person seems small, quiet, and insignificant. See, there's just one girl planting a tree and watering it. But when one person and one person and one person become many, and you can see here they've put solar panels on the buildings and planted community gardens up there in the corner, and they've got recycling and compost bins, and people are riding their bicycles around rather than cars. It looks like the whole community is involved. Well, they can change a planet. You can see people protesting. There was a protest earlier this week on Earth Day over at City Hall that I had the pleasure of going down to. People holding signs. You can see signs, Youth for Climate Action, Make Earth Green Again, No hay planeta B, there's no planet B, respect Indigenous people's rights, kids want climate justice. Our planet seems tough, but it is fragile. Our planet seems big, but it needs us. Our planet has spun through eons of time, but this moment is the one that matters most. You can see a bunch of letters written. Maybe you can't make out what they say, but things like, "Dear Senator, I'm writing to you because I care about the climate crisis. Dear City Council, I support the new downtown bike lane plan." I'm not sure if anyone noticed the new protected bike lanes that were built just earlier this week and are still under construction on 3rd Street. "Dear neighbor, have you heard about our community compost program to reduce food waste?" "Dear grandma, I went to my very first climate march yesterday." This moment is the one that matters most for our planet, our only home. The end. Thanks for joining me. And before our kids head off to their religious education classes, we'll sing them out with our song, with our children's blessing. There's some hand motions to it. You can join me in doing them if you know them, and even if you don't, you can probably pick it up. I think we all have a sense, to some degree or another, of what's wrong with the environment, what's wrong with the climate, right? We've heard distressing statistics about species loss and ecosystem degradation and global warming. I've had my moments where it all seemed hopeless. But the thing is, global warming, environmental protection, they're not binary. Nor is ecological destruction. It's not a story where all is lost. Nor is it a story where everything will turn out right in the end. This morning in our service, we are going to share two sets of stories. First are stories of unraveling, of ecosystems harmed, of people suffering. And then we're going to share stories of turning. The narrative changes. Maybe things that seemed hopeless aren't. Maybe they're even downright hopeful. Whether that's because of the resilience of our planet and our environment, or the work of people working to make it better, or, as is often the case, both. Remember, the first Earth Day was in large part a response to the massive oil spill off the coast of Santa Barbara, the biggest one in U.S. history at the time, as well as the Cuyahoga River in Ohio being so polluted that it had caught fire just the year before, and that was not the first time. And so out of those crises and others, we had that push for the first Earth Day, and with it, the modern environmental movement was born. Just like in our children's book, our stories will touch on the way that humans have harmed our planet and its environment. But then we'll hear stories of people working together in concert with the environment for something better, more hopeful. Each one connected to an element: fire, water, earth, and air.
Imagine starting out just a normal day with your family, maybe coffee with your spouse, joshing with your children. In the distance, you see the telltale smoke of a wildfire, but you don't worry because you've seen it before. It's never been a problem for you. By the end of the day, you end up exhausted and scared, checking into a hotel far from your home, with only the clothes on your back, your family, and pets. That's what happened to my stepbrother, Jeff, when the Palisades fire swept through his Malibu neighborhood last January. After spotting the fire from their deck, he assured his wife that it would never get near them. However, over a few hours, it seemed to roll uphill towards them, and his wife decided to leave with their daughter. Jeff stayed for several hours until the police told everyone they needed to evacuate immediately. He described the terrifying drive down the hill as surreal, with burning houses on both sides of the road. It was like a war zone, he said. Now, many of us may have family or friends who've had to evacuate or lost their homes. The Tubbs fire in Santa Rosa, the Camp Fire that devastated the town of Paradise, and many more. Most of us remember how in 2020, the August Complex fire, the biggest recorded fire in California history, turned the sky over the entire Bay Area a frightening, otherworldly orange, making the air nearly unbreathable. My stepbrother's family lost most of their possessions and all artifacts of their children's upbringing in the fire. Everyone they knew in their neighborhood of 10 years lost their houses, as well as the school, their farmer's market, and their local bank. For a long time, the whole family experienced a feeling of disbelief and incredible loss. They are still rebuilding their lives.
Water, Part 1. Southern California is dry, bone dry, parched, brittle. In my lifetime, drought has stopped feeling like a season and started feeling like a condition we live inside of. Because of the climate crisis, we've endured years-long droughts, parts of the driest period in over 1,000 years. Across California, more than 100 million trees have died. Fields have been left unplanted. wells have run dry in entire communities. And in some places, the land itself is sinking as we draw more water from the earth than it can restore. It began to feel like this was the future, hotter, drier. It isn't just our story. Without a sharp turn away from fossil fuels, billions will struggle to access clean drinking water. By mid-century, most of humanity will face water scarcity. It is not far. It is unfolding here and now.
Earth, Part 1. Soil, earth, dirt. Soil is humble and often taken for granted, but it is as essential as breathing. When soil is taken for granted, as is often the case, it gets abused by agricultural, landscape, and construction practices that leave it depleted or eroded away. Where I used to live in Indiana, Purdue University estimates that cropland is currently losing 3.1 tons of soil per acre per year. Much of the loss happens when precipitation falls on tilled fields after the crops are harvested. Tilling leaves the soil loose and easier for rain to wash away. If the field is also left bare after the crops are harvested, there are no plants to hold the soil in place. The extreme storms produced by climate change exacerbate the erosion. There are problems with topsoil loss in California as well, but they aren't as pronounced. But there are other forms of erosion that are far more dangerous. John Leoza and his wife had a home in the Santa Cruz Mountains. Their home was surrounded by beautiful redwoods and overlooked Kings Creek. One winter, atmospheric rivers brought extreme rainfall. The excess rainfall, especially coming after years of record drought, washed away the soil around their home, leaving their home on the edge and at risk of falling into the creek. John and his wife were forced to abandon their beautiful home in the woods.
As a youngster, I often had trouble breathing. I remember sitting in the bathroom, breathing humidified air with a thick aroma of Vicks VapoRub for what seemed like an eternity. I remember laying on the counter with my head in the kitchen sink while my dad hooked this contraption called an aspirator to the sink and ran a tube of running water into my nose, or having to suck salt water into my nose long enough before neti pots were popular to try and clear my sinuses. My dad would give me hot toddies, a drink made of warm water, lemon juice, whiskey, and honey to help me sleep. Fortunately, this routine only happened during the 2 or 3 weeks a year when my asthmatic bronchitis flared up. That's what it was like growing up in California's San Joaquin Valley in the 1960s and 70s. The geography of the San Joaquin Valley, with mountains on 3 sides, made for a great big bathtub to catch and hold air pollutants from the Central Valley, as well as smog from the Bay Area that blows in through a gap in the coastal mountain ranges. Until it rained, and it didn't rain much in Visalia, the air got dirtier and dirtier until the nearby majestic Sierra Nevada mountains disappeared in the haze for months at a time. My experience wasn't unique. Children in communities across California and around the world struggle with debilitating breathing problems that were both caused and exacerbated by the dirty air spewed from factories, refineries, and automobiles. And these burdens fall disproportionately on poorer communities of color.
So much loss in our world. And as I mentioned, we are also going to get to the stories of hope. more positive stories. And that's what life is like. Challenging and the sublime, sorrow and sadness, all intertwined together. Part of what we do here, part of why we come together, is to be in community so that we can hold those challenges, not by ourselves, but with one another. In a moment, I'm going to sound this singing bowl. And after I do, I invite you to speak aloud into the space with words overlapping other words, or if you're joining us online, to type into the chat any joys or sorrows that are on your heart this morning, whether it's something from the wider world or something from your own life. We left them up so that they might be held. In this, our embracing meditation. Kevin Matthew and his family. My mom, Maureen.
The Iran war.
Working with my son-in-law on my yard.
Stop the assassination attempts.
All that has been shared and all that is too tender yet to share, but which we hold in the silent sanctuary of our hearts. We offer these into the embrace of this beloved community. And if speaking words into the space is not enough, after the service, I invite you to stop by our pastoral care table where our pastoral associate of the week will be there. You can write there in our book of joys and sorrows, or light a candle, or talk to our pastoral associate. And remember, and also throughout the week, you can always reach them. And that information is in your order of service and online. And just remember that you are not alone. I invite you to join me in a spirit of contemplation and reflection. Maybe that means closing your eyes or softening your gaze. I offer these words, a poem from Clint Smith III, for the hardest days. Some evenings, after days when the world feels like it has poured out all its despair onto me, when I am awash with burdens that rests atop my body like a burlap of jostling shadows, I find a place to watch the sun set. I dig my feet into a soil that has never rebirthed itself, into a soil that has rebirthed itself a million times over. I listen to the sound of leaves as they decide whether or not it is time to descend from their branches. It is hard to describe the comfort one feels in sitting with something you trust will always be there, something you can count on to remain familiar when all else seems awry. How remarkable it is to know that so many have watched the same sun set before you. How the wind can carry pollen and drop it somewhere it has never been. How the leaves have always become the soil that then becomes the leaves again. How maybe we are not so different from the leaves. How maybe we are also always being reborn to be something more than we once were. How maybe that's what waking up each morning is. A reminder that we are born of the same atoms as every plant and bird and mountain and ocean around us. Sarah Lynch Thomason, an activist in North Carolina and musician, wrote this song, More Waters Rising, thinking about seeing what's coming on the horizon, harder times that are inevitable and unavoidable. But she says the answer to the fear of what's coming is resiliency and claiming a strength within ourselves that has been there all along. I invite you to please rise in body or in spirit and join me in singing. I know the words are in the PowerPoint. I'm going to teach it without the slides. I can trust that you can pick it up. I know some of you already know it. So it goes like this. I'm going to sing a part and I'll invite you to sing it back to me. There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. There are more waters rising, they will find their way to me. There are more waters rising, they will find their way to me. And it goes back to, there are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. So that's the song. It's there are more waters rising, this I know. There are more waters rising, they will find their way to me. There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. And then we'll add in some extra verses. It's a zipper song, which means that just a few words change every time, and I'll call those out for you. Y'all are doing great already, so I'm sure we've got this. There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. There are more waters rising, they will find their way to me. There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. More fires burning. There are more fires burning, this I know, this I know. There are more fires burning, this I know. There are more mountains falling. There are more mountains falling, this I know, this I know. There are more mountains falling, this I know. There are more mountains falling, they will find their way to me. There are more mountains falling, this I know, this I know. There are more mountains falling, this I know. I will wade through the waters. I will wade through the waters, this I know, this I know. I will wade through the waters, this I know. I will wade through. When they find their way to me, will find their way to me. I will wade through the waters, this I know, this I know. I will wade through the waters, this I know. I will go through the fires. I will go through the fires, this I know, this I know. I will go through the fires, this I know. I will go through the fires when they find their way to me. I will go through the fires, this I know, this I know. I will go through the fires, this I know. We will rebuild the mountains. We will rebuild the mountains, this I know, this I know. We will rebuild the mountains, this I know. We will rebuild. When they find their way to us, when they find their way to us, we will rebuild the mountains, this I know, this I know. We will rebuild the mountains, this I know. More waters rising. There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. There are more waters rising, they will find their way to me. There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. Each month, we take up a special collection for an organization that is doing good work in our community and in our world. This Sunday, I'm excited to be that we're raising our special collection, obviously connected to Earth Day for 350 Silicon Valley. Let's wait to pass the plates until after our guest speakers talk, because I imagine that what they're going to say is inspiring. As we sit in this pivot point in our service between knowing what's wrong in the world and thinking about what we can do to make it better, I'm excited to invite Mega Magula and Luke Chu from 350 Silicon Valley, who are starting up also a chapter of 350 San Jose to share a little bit about the work that they're doing. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having us today. My name is Mega. I'm a junior at Notre Dame High School in San Jose.
And I'm Luke Shu and a junior at Valley Christian High School.
So to begin, I just wanted to kind of introduce how I got involved in climate advocacy. Obviously, growing up in California, you see a lot of natural disasters, and I began to get involved at the beginning of high school through climate advocacy in 350 Bay Area. So to kind of give context about what 350.org does as a big network of organizations, it does climate advocacy and lobbying, community organizing at every level. 350 Silicon Valley is the regional organization, and it's kind of the greater family of city teams. So we, earlier this year, decided to start a 350 San Jose team that would work specifically advocating at the city level here. And in general, 350 Silicon Valley serves Santa Clara County and San Mateo County. They advocate at the city level, they host events, tabling, and organize the community for marches.
So I got involved with climate change through my first experience on the impact of wildfires. I remember my tennis practices were constantly canceled, and even school had to shut down for a day because the air quality was so bad that you couldn't even go outside. So this first made me want to create technology to combat these wildfires, which was successful, but as seasons grew longer and more extreme, I realized that this systemic issue stemmed from climate change. So this led me to want to start 350.org San Jose's chapter, which would give me the platform to help create the change I want to see happen in air pollution. Currently, San Jose is ranked among the worst in air pollution, third in short-term particle pollution, and fifth in long-term exposure. However, this is the second year in a row that San Jose has recorded its lowest ever levels of air pollution because of tools such as EVs, e-homes, and clean energy that is being used more and more to create a sustainable future that we can live in. At 350 San Jose, we want to table out events to bring awareness and give residents a chance to connect to these clean energy programs, meet with city council members to help impact decisions on a policy level, and bring more people into our movement because more voices means our voices can be heard by people in places of power. So if you want to join, there's going to be a QR code, and thank you to this church for hosting us.
So if you're writing a check, you can make it out to FUCSJ or First Unitarian San Jose, and then just write 350 in the memo or 350 Silicon Valley. You can also donate online at santauu.org/donate, and just make sure to select special collection. Our offerings will now be gratefully received. To the work of the church, which is making love visible in all we say and do, we dedicate ourselves and these our offerings. I just wanted to make a couple quick announcements, or maybe medium-length announcements. since we were already talking about money, so some of you may have seen the message in the email in this week's e-news. Our stewardship campaign has officially finished, but we're just a little short of reaching our goal of $450,000. I think last I checked, we had hit 96%. We were above 96%, but weren't all the way there. And so this is I feel like this is kind of like the public radio pledge drive. I'm not going to be calling you individually or asking you, but just a general call. We want to make sure that most of the money that in our budget goes towards paying our staff's salaries and benefits, and we want to make sure that in this place, which is a very expensive place to live, that we are offering our employees good wages and good benefits. And so any little thing you can do helps. So if you can increase, if you've already pledged, I invite you to consider maybe increasing your pledge $100 or $1,000. It would be greatly appreciated. Like I said, any little bit helps, so we can just close that gap and reach our goal. You can update your pledge by emailing stewardship@San Jose UU, going to sanjoseuu.org/stewardship, or stopping by the stewardship table after church today. And we're meeting on about the budget this Tuesday. So sooner rather than later would be greatly appreciated if that's something you're thinking about. And how to do that's all in your order of service. The other thing is later today, shortly after the service, we're going to be having a non-cooperation training. I went to one of these with a bunch of my UU ministerial colleagues back in the end of January, essentially non-cooperation with authoritarianism. And I found it incredibly meaningful and moving and inspiring, and a sense of, at a time when so many things feel out of control in our country and like we don't have any power, and what happens if ICE agents descend en masse into the Bay Area, or what if something happens with our elections. This approach to non-cooperation is about preparing ourselves for those eventualities. So like I said, I was so excited inspired, moved by attending the training, that I was like, I want to get trained so that I can offer this myself, which I did. And so if you're interested, I invite you to join us after the service at 1 o'clock. Here in the sanctuary. There is going to be a lunch at 12:30. There's food in the fireside room. If you're not staying for that training, please don't take the food unless if you're absolutely starving, no one's going to turn you away. But there are also snacks in Hattie Porter Hall as well. And so also there's tables set up. We'll be having people, maybe showing up, trickling in between 12:30 and 1 o'clock getting food. So be kind and generous guests. And if you're here for the first time because you're planning on coming to that training, welcome. Anyway, I'm very excited about it.
For nearly 30 years, Ron Good has been lighting wildfires. No, he is not an arsonist. The Honorable Ron W. Good is tribal chairman of the North Fork Mono Tribe. Fire is a natural part of the ecosystem in the West. According to an article by the University of California, when European settlers entered California, they saw tribes setting fire to the land and regarded it as primitive. They suppressed the practice, and as a result, many of our forests became overgrown with huge amounts of fuel on the ground. Combined with droughts due to climate change and high-speed winds, the result is the destruction seen in the Palisades fire that my stepbrother and his family experienced. Ron Good practices what is known as cultural burning, a form of land management passed down by tribes for thousands of years. Cultural burning focuses on revitalizing the land to make it of use again. These are burns designed to cultivate biodiversity and sustainable growth that make landscapes more resilient. We can hopefully say that indigenous ways of living with fire, coupled with Western approaches to wildfire management, are helping reduce the severity and risk of the fires that will certainly spark. We thrive on the land, not survive, Good says. Indians didn't survive. They looked to our grandchildren's grandchildren, 7 generations, basically 120 years down the road. That's where we look. So the decisions that we make and our practices that we do today need to affect generations down the road.
When the rains come, it feels like a blessing. The smell of wet earth, water moving again, rivulets forming along sidewalks, raindrops finding their rhythm. After so many dry years, I would not have imagined a winter like 2023, the second biggest snowpack in the recorded history of the Sierra Nevada. Snow fell in the foothills by our Southern California home. When we were in Mammoth in late March, there were snowdrifts over 20 feet high along the sidewalks, and reservoirs were rising again. Something remarkable happened that year. Tulare Lake, a lake in the Central Valley that had once been 4 times as big as Tahoe before it was drained, returned for the first time in generations. Water spread across tens of thousands of acres, bringing birds, wetlands, and life back with it, a glimpse of what restoration can look like. Not a return to the past, but a reminder that the future is still being written. And people are responding. Across California, communities are changing, replacing lawns with native plants, rethinking how we grow food, learning to live within the limits of this place. Not perfectly, but differently. We are water. Water is life. It teaches us interdependence and that what we take and how we care matters. So this Earth Day, may we listen, may we change, and may we find the courage to protect what is sacred for each other and for all life that flows from it.
I recently watched a documentary about a couple who didn't take their soil for granted. They dreamed of farming in harmony with nature. They bought a small farm in California that at the time had a monoculture orchard and hard, dead, dusty soil. And then they went to work on it. They planted 75 different kinds of fruit trees, and between the trees, they planted cover crops. They let their sheep wander through the orchard, nibbling on the cover crops. The sheep left their droppings to fertilize the trees. After a few years, the soil was alive again, full of microbes, insects, and worms. It was nourishing the fruit trees. More and more farmers are turning to measures like these that rebuild soil. Not only is the soil healthier, these practices also store carbon in the soil and help combat climate change. Several years later, when heavy rain from atmospheric rivers hit the small farm, their healthy soil absorbed water better, recharging the groundwater. And the healthy trees and cover crops held the soil in place. Soil is the ultimate recycler. It is fed by manure, like from the sheep, and also by plant and animal materials that have reached the ends of their lives. Soil is their common grave, but in that grave, soil takes what has died and converts it into nutrition for the next generation.
A few months after the first Earth Day, Congress, seeing the way the wind was blowing, quite literally, signed the 1970 Clean Air Act, one of America's landmark environmental laws. Due to that law, the diligent work of activists and scientists, the air in my hometown has gotten better. Not perfect, but better. Smog checks and the catalytic converter, requiring California oil refineries to blend their products to reduce emissions, high, what's the word now? Okay. HOVs, high occupancy vehicles, thank you. Bans on gas-powered leaf blowers have all helped improve San Joaquin Valley's air quality, and for the rest of the state as well. Despite a population that has grown dramatically over the past 56 years, the air quality has steadily improved. The Sierra Nevada shares its majesty more often, and kids like me can breathe a little easier. NASA's recently completed Artemis II mission once again shined a light on the tenuous, tenacious, and temporary relationship that life on Earth has with air. In a broader sense, this relatively thin layer of gases that make up the air that we call an atmosphere. Our atmospheric womb of nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, and a few other less plentiful gases sustains us and has allowed humans and other life forms to survive and flourish. Our air sustains us. Let's clean it up for all of us.
This is an open letter from you and me together. Tomorrow's in our hands now. Find the words that matter, say them out loud, and make it better somehow. Looking down from up on the moon, there's a tiny blue marble. Who'd have thought the ground we stand on could be so fragile? This is a love song to the earth. You're no ordinary world, a diamond in the universe, heaven's poetry to us. Keep it safe, keep it safe, keep it safe, 'cause it's our world, it's our world. It's not about possessions, money, or religion, how many years we might live, when the only real question that matters is still a matter of perspective. Looking down from up on the moon, there's a tiny blue marble. Who'd have thought the ground we stand on could be so fragile? This is a love song to the earth. You're no ordinary world, a diamond in the universe, heaven's poetry to us. Keep it safe, keep it safe, keep it safe, 'cause it's our world, it's our world, 'cause it's our world, it's our world, 'cause it's our world, it's our world. This is a love song to the earth. You're no ordinary world, a diamond in the universe, heaven's poetry to us. Keep it safe, keep it safe, keep it safe, 'cause it's our world, it's our world, 'cause it's our world, it's our world.
The stories are still being written. We still have the opportunity to shape the future for the better. We heard about the various elements. I wanted to talk briefly about energy, which is so central to what's going on with our climate. To tell another story of catastrophe and opportunity. Pakistan has experienced two of its most catastrophic climate-induced floods, one in 2010 and again in 2022. The floods displaced tens of millions, killed thousands, and left vast areas of farmland and homes underwater for months. The government's already fragile power grid could not meet the needs of a flooded, recovering population, a crisis only made worse when a heat wave and gas shortages caused by the war in Ukraine forced power cuts across the country. People took matters into their own hands and began purchasing solar panels, often with pooled community funds, small loans, or personal savings, creating local microgrids to power lights, water pumps, and cell towers. Mosques began using solar to remain open and serve as shelters. Between 2020 and 2025, solar went from generating a little more than 2% to more than 25% of Pakistan's electricity. And that's just on the grid, utility-generated electricity. That doesn't include the countless people who are unconnected to the grid, generating solar on their homes or other small local grids. And this year, with the shocks of rising oil and gas prices caused by the war in Iran, the people of Pakistan are better able to weather it than many, many other countries. In the wake of this war and the energy instability it is causing, we can also see hope, even amidst the awful destruction. Many more countries are seeing the need to pivot more quickly to solar power and other renewable forms of energy. And right now, as we speak, more than 50 countries are participating in the very first Conference on Transitioning Away from Fossil Fuels, hosted by Colombia and the Netherlands. 50 countries meeting to discuss a treaty to phase out fossil fuels, something that the UN Climate Conference has never actually done in 30 years of meeting. And so that gives me hope. The conference includes fossil fuel producing countries like Australia and Norway and Brazil and Canada, Nigeria and Mexico, as well as some of the most climate vulnerable nations like Fiji, Bangladesh, and the Maldives, as well as major economic powers like the UK and France and the European Union, as well as communities as central participants in the conference, including indigenous peoples, Afro-descendant communities, small farmers, women, youth, social movements, and trade unions, recognizing that these groups are often more vulnerable to environmental harms and that their voices are needed for a just transition away from fossil fuels. And I think in part some of the people are doing this because of the intransigence of some of the major countries like China and India, Russia, and of course the United States. Even in our best years with better administrations, the United States was not one of the best players in the UN Conference of Parties. And yet, also, even now, despite what the president may be doing, California is actually generating more than 50% of its energy from renewable sources. We are on track to meet our goal of generating 60% of our energy from renewables by 2030. And Frankly, we would be doing better if it weren't for the huge expansion in energy consumption from data centers. But that's another story, something that our environmental justice ministry, which I didn't mention, but all these folks are part of our environmental justice ministry, are working on. So expect to hear more about that from us. And I know there's a lot of energy in the city around that at the moment. And the thing is, California isn't even the leading state for renewable energy. Some states get close to 80% of their energy from renewables already. And it's not just blue states. Texas generates 1/3 of its electricity, and actually it's now installing new renewable energy faster than California is. Dr. Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson, marine biologist, policy expert, and author of the book, What If We Get It Right? Visions of Climate Futures, which was a thought that was part of this service coming together, says, we already have all of the solutions we need. It's really just a matter of how quickly and how justly we're able to implement them. From renewable energy to regenerative agriculture to electric transportation to green buildings to restoring and protecting nature. There is not a big secret about what we need to do. It's just how quickly we can get it done. One of the things that she does in her book is talk about both the challenges and the possibilities. And I think that's a really hopeful framing for this moment. Or maybe hope. She doesn't like the word hope, I know. That's a whole other, I don't want to get off on that. But she offers both, as a reminder that even though things may be difficult, and we have to hold that there's also possibility. She has them listed on either side as minuses and pluses. And so she notes that approximately 1 million species are at risk of extinction due to habitat loss, exploitation, climate change, pesticides, and pollution. Yet she also notes that protecting and restoring ecosystems would provide 37% of the CO2 mitigation needed to stabilize warming below 2 degrees Celsius, 3.6 degrees Fahrenheit by 2030. She notes that every year an area the size of roughly 10 million football fields is deforested, resulting in 17% of global greenhouse gas pollution, and agriculture is responsible for at least 90% of tropical deforestation. But she also notes that restoring 15% of croplands and pasture lands to natural ecosystems could prevent 60% of expected species extinctions and sequester almost 300 billion tons of CO2. And every dollar invested in restoring degraded forests can generate up to $30 in economic benefits. And so, on this Earth Day, let us remember that the story is still being written, and we can play our part with our own individual actions, although we're always stronger in community. One of the things I came across while working on the sermon that I want to share with you, there's a slide for this in the slideshow, is this something that Dr. Ayanna Johnson came up with, which is a climate Venn diagram, because sometimes we wonder where to put our energy. And what I love about this, the simplicity, is she puts 3 different circles. What brings you joy? What are sources of satisfaction and delight? What are you good at? What skills, resources, and networks do you have? And what work needs doing? Obviously, climate justice solutions. And in the intersection of those are your climate action. I know for me personally, that may be spending time in the garden, working with these folks. It's going to be working on data centers and so many other things. And so find your way to plug in, because there's truly joy you can find in working for the earth and building a better future. May we move towards that. Our closing hymn is Turn the World Around. It is number 1074 in your teal hymnal. But actually, sometimes I find it's a little hard to follow along. This is not a song that was written as a hymn. This is a more pop song. So the words will be on the screen. You may find it easier following along there. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit and join in singing Turn the World Around. We come from the fire, living in the fire. Go back to the fire, turn the world around. We come from the water, living in the water. Go back to the water, turn the world around. We come from the mountain, living in the mountain. Go back to the mountain, turn the world around. That song would benefit from drums, and yet I'm not a good enough drummer to drum in 5/4 time. And so I invite you to reach out and join hands with your neighbors and touch elbows or bump elbows, touch a shoulder if you make a connection. Those of you joining us online, I invite you to send your energy out to us and to each other. And I just want to thank everyone who made the service possible. Obviously, our 4 worship associates, which is more than normal, helping craft this idea for this service, and Ben signing, and all the tech folks, and our greeters, and the people who've set up for coffee hour and the lunch, and those who don't know it yet but will be cleaning up after those. I'm glad you still laugh at that. I'm not the first time I've told a joke. And the musicians, of course. Thank you.
Drummer boy.
Yeah. All right. So our closing words are from the UN Environmental Sabbath. And you have a response. that you're going to say after each refrain, except for the last one. I'll cue you when you're not to say it. So I'm going to invite you to say this with me. We join with the earth and with each other. We join with the earth and with each other. We join with the earth and with each other.
To bring new life to the land, to restore the waters, to refresh the air.
We join with the earth and with each other.
To renew the forests, to care for the plants, and to protect the creatures.
We join with the earth and with each other.
To celebrate the seas, to rejoice the sunlight, to sing the song of the stars.
We join with the earth and with each other.
To recall our destiny, to renew our spirits, to reinvigorate our bodies.
We join with the earth and with each other. All right, this is the one you don't respond after. To create the human community, to promote justice and peace, to remember our children. We join together as many and diverse expressions of one loving mystery for the healing of the earth and the renewal of all life. May it be so.
Amen.